Hi, everybody. Welcome back to more drawing with Daniel. And I'm Daniel. So put this off to the side. And this is video 2 of drawing an elephant. If you watched the first video, that was very basic shapes and was geared more towards the younger student, the early elementary age student, the artists just starting out with the lower abilities, and it's more of a cartoon style. We ended up with these elephants right here. Now, today in the second elephant video, we'll be doing a more detailed, more realistic style. And as I have often said to you in my other videos, you can use library books in your own home that you already own, Barnes Noble, half price bookstore, or to get old interweb and do a little Google search on Google Images and find yourself a good image of an elephant. And this is the image that I was going to go with. I decided to go with this front view, so it would be basically the same view as my cartoon elephant, but this time it's not going to be so cartoony. It'll be more detailed. So this is my reference material right here, and I may have it sitting here where I can look at it easy, and sometimes I'll bring it in close as well. So just like the other version of our elephant, we're going to use basic shapes, and we use the Crayola. I use the colored pencil to draw my shapes, and then I use the Crayola pencils to color it. Since we're doing something a little more advanced on this one, I'm going to be mostly using pencils, and then I may show you a few things with some technical pens as well. But my drawing is going to be in pencils. Now, to do a really detailed drawing of this, that's going to take several hours. Obviously, I'm not going to film myself drawing for 3 hours. You would die of boredom. But I will get started with it, and then I'll show you what I did last night. I worked on it for about 2 hours, and we'll pick up from there. But let's get started first of all. Okay, that's enough of the talky talk. Let's get to drawing. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a good look at this picture. And it's a beautiful elephant. He's facing forward, coming towards us, and he's very wrinkly, so he's going to have lots of detail in there that we'll need to capture to make it somewhat realistic. And when I say realistic, I do not mean photorealism. I have a lot of artist friends, and I've seen a lot of artwork in my day, and there's a lot of artists that do very, very photorealistic illustrations, paintings, drawings, whatever. It's so realistic looking, you would think it was a photograph. It looks, and that's amazing, and it's cool, and it's very impressive, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, I've always kind of been of the school of thought that I don't want my artwork to be 100% photorealistic, because if you want it to be 100% photorealistic, you might as well take a photograph. That's the way I think about it. I want my drawing to look very realistic, but I want it to be my interpretation at the same time. So whatever I draw is not going to look 100% exactly like this. If you want that, you just take a photograph or make a copy of it. But the fun comes in with the drawing and making your own interpretation. So the first thing I'm going to need is a straight edge. And when I say straight edge, I also mean a ruler. It can be a ruler like this, a plastic ruler. It can be a little ruler like this, or it's just something that has a straight edge on it. I don't really need the numbers, so it doesn't have to be a ruler. It just needs to be a straight edge. So you can use this triangle as well, drawing triangle. But whatever you got, you probably got something like this around the house, I bet. So that's what I'm going to use. Another thing is, we talked about in the past about the pencils. The H pencils are hard lead. The B pencils are soft lead. The H hard lead pencils are lighter. It's a harder lead, so it's a lighter pencil mark. The B pencils are soft lead, so it's a darker pencil mark. I'm going to use a lot of the B pencils this time around. And since it is such a soft lead, you have to be real careful when you're sharpening it because it's much more brittle because it's soft. So you have to be more gentle when you're sharpening. And also, they smudge a lot. So what I do when I'm using those kind of pencils or ink or even a colored pencil sometimes, I'll grab a nice clean blank sheet of scrap paper or a large index card, and I'll use it on my paper for my hand, this part right here, to rest on as I'm drawing, because your hand, your skin has lots of oil, natural oils in it, and it'll get on the paper. And this way, you also kind of help prevent that smudging. If I don't have that there, and I'm using this soft lead, my hand's going to smudge it, and I'll be constantly trying to fix that, and that's going to be a real pain in the watusi. So get your little piece of scrap paper, an index card, something that you can rest your hand on. Don't forget to move it around. It'll protect your drawing, protect your hand as well. Every now and then you still may get some of that pencil on you because it's so soft, smudges so easily. So you might have to wash your hands a few times in between the drawings. Make sure it's completely dry before you touch your paper again. Don't make your paper wet. Okay, so I'm going to start out with just either an H pencil like this HB. HB has both the H and the B on it, obviously, and it is very similar lead to your number 2 yellow pencil that you use in a classroom. So you could use a number 2 pencil if you wanted. That's up to you. We'll set that over there for now. All right, so what I'm going to do is kind of make a line here, like that. That's line right there will be where I'm basically making a line where the top of my elephant head is. Now I'm going to make a line down here because I'm going to make my elephant slightly taller than this image here. So I'm going to make it not quite, maybe close to twice as tall. Like that. So basically, I made another line right there. So now I have my height, and I made that line a lot darker than what I normally would. I did it so it'll show up for you guys. Now I'm also going to kind of do what I call a center line, like that. That center line is basically, see how it's kind of dividing the elephant into 2 halves, right down the center, right between the 2 eyeballs. There's his right eye, there's his left eye, and the line goes right down the middle of his trunk, and then the trunk kind of curves off, but it's right down the center there, center of the head, right between the eyes, and most of the trunk. And that's what I got here. So this is how tall my elephant's going to be, which is not quite twice as big as that, but a little bigger. And now we're going to use some basic shapes again. So just like we did in our cartoony one, if you saw that video, we're going to do a circle, and I'll probably use more of a square shape for the ears. So there's my circle for the head, and a square shape. Now, just like when we did, I was telling in this video here, oops, sorry about the camera there, folks. Anyway, this trunk is a tube cylinder, but I just bent it. So this is a square, but I'm manipulating the square a little bit. Normally you would think of a square like this shape right here, but you can manipulate those sides. It's almost maybe even more of a diamond shape. But look at our image here. See how what I'm doing is I'm making a square. I'm boxing that shape in. I'm just making it a generalized shape. There was my circle. So I started with the circle. I have a general box shape. I'm just boxing in those ears. And now I can refine it a little bit and kind of, it's obviously not straight lines and squares. So let's get the curvature right here. We're catching this curve here. We're going to catch this curve. We're going to make sure we got this point here, this point here. We're going to catch this little curve in the top of his left ear. And over here, he's got like a little notch in that curve right there. So we'll pick that up too. So we got a curve right here. It kind of curves right there. And there's a curve on the top here. And then it comes down here. And right there's where we have that little notch. See where I put that notch in right there? That notch right there is right there. Okay, in my other video, I talked a little bit about elephants as well. And so we'll do a little talk about elephants here. Give you some elephant facts. For example, a baby elephant weighs between 200 and 300 pounds. Holy moly, that's a big baby. All right, so let's just pop in a rough eye. So I got my line here. I need another, I want to keep those eyes lined up. So I'm going to make another little line across there to make sure my eyes are the same height. There we go. You don't want to draw one up here, then one down here. It's going to be kind of wonky. Look at all these wrinkles right there, right down the center. I'm just going to put a couple of those in right there. So kind of just help me out a little bit. All right, now, why don't we work on that trunk next? It's got a bunch of really dark, heavy wrinkles there. Some more elephant facts. You know, I just said the baby elephant weighs between 200 and 300 pounds. But when they're born, their brains are already fully developed, unlike a human child. And that way they have the knowledge already of walking and to eat on their own. And that way they also understand, you know, their role in the elephant herd. So that's kind of neat and different than humans. Obviously, a human child brain is not fully developed when they're born. And an elephant fetus takes 22 months to develop in the womb, unlike a human who's only 9 months. So that fetus takes 22 months in the elephant womb, which is really crazy if you think about it. But, you know, they got to grow to get that big. All right, now remember, like I said in this video, the trunk is nothing but a cylinder or tube. It's just bent and twisted. So, and look at this big long tube here. One of the things that stand out is notice how it's wider here at the top, and it slowly, gradually gets more narrow as it gets to the bottom or the end. So here is our tube. It's wider at the top. And it's slowly going to gradually get a little smaller. Okay, that's just kind of rough. See? There we go. See it? There's his tusk. Tusks are nothing more than their extended teeth, the incisors. Once again, these are more cylinders, more tube shape. It looks like this one, his left tusk is a little longer than the right. They use these tusks to dig and help them forage for food. Uh, in my other video, I explained how there's African elephants and there are Asian elephants. The African elephants, both male and female, can have tusks. But the Asian elephant is just a little different. Only the males have tusks in Asian elephants. I don't know why that is, but that's the way it is. Okay, we got our tusk. This one's curving out a little more, a little longer. We got our ears, our head, and our trunk. So let's kind of find where there's the bottom of his body. You can see a little bit of it right there between the trunk and that front right leg. So it looks like it's a little more, if you were to divide this picture up, from right there at the top of the tusk to the bottom of the trunk, his body is a little more than halfway down, isn't it? Because halfway would probably be right about here, right? That's about half the distance. But his body is more in line right about here. So it's just a little bit past halfway. So that's why I made those lines. So I can do that on here too, the top of my tusk. And I know halfway is probably right about here. And that body's going to be a little more than halfway. So I'm going to make that line right about there. That line is the same line as we got right here. So when you're drawing stuff and you're trying to get it realistic and you're not really doing it, when you're doing a cartoon, you're not so concerned about the proportions being more accurate. Here, I want a more realistic drawing. Once again, not a photorealistic drawing, but a more realistic drawing. So I use a lot of measurements, a lot of lines like that. So, because if I just eyeball it and just guess, I might put that body up here or way down here, and that just wouldn't be right. Okay, so now I'm going to draw these cylinders, which are his legs. And he has pretty wide legs. You know, we talked about the two elephants, the Asian elephant and the African elephant. Here's a little reference photo right here for you. You know which one's which? One of them is an Asian elephant and one of them is an African elephant. Which one is which? Well, they look pretty similar, don't they? And I did say that the African elephants, both the male and female, have tusk, and the Asian elephants, only the males have tusk. But another distinct difference between these two is the ears. Do you notice that this guy's ears are smaller than this guy's ears? The African elephant has larger ears than the Asian elephant. So the Asian elephant's going to have smaller ears. So that's another way to tell the two apart. Other than that, they look pretty much the same, don't they? But I just thought you might want to know that. All right, let's draw that other one. Notice how that elephant legs, and you can tell from this other picture too, even better maybe. Notice how it gets bigger down here at the feet. It's wider. It's a cylinder. Look at that nice straight cylinder. But then it gets wider at the bottom. See how our picture gets wider at the bottom? So it flares out a little bit. So there's my tube, there's my cylinder, and then I'm flaring it out a little bit because that foot gets wider. There's the two front ones. Here is the back leg, and there's the side of his body's right here. I don't know if you can tell, but there's the side of his body, and there's that back leg. Just like in our cartoon, front leg, back leg, back leg. So here's that side of that body. And he's got the side of his body here as well. Right here, where my arrow's pointing, There's the side of his body. There's the side of that leg. There's that leg right there. So there's the side of the body. There's the side of the leg. There's that leg. So what do you think? Now, what you could do, now keep in mind, I drew a lot darker than I would normally would. I did that for your benefit so you can see it better. Normally, if I'm sketching this out, I'm going to be doing it really light, like that. It'll be easier for me to erase these pencils lines that I made, because I don't really need a lot of these pencil lines now. Let's get rid of some of those. Elephants eat at least 12 up to 16 hours a day, so they spend most of their day eating because they have to. Look at how big they are. Remember I said in my other video, they're the largest living animal on land. Now, the blue whale is the largest living animal on the planet, but they don't live on land, do they? No, they do not. So when you're the largest living animal on land, you gotta eat a lot of food. And drink a lot as well. You gotta drink a lot of water. An elephant can technically live, much like a human, up to about 70 years. If they're left alone, if humans don't bother them, and if there's plenty of food and water sources for them, and they're healthy and don't have a lot of stress. They don't have any predators other than humans. Humans the only predator they have to worry about. So if the humans leave them alone and they got plenty of food and water, they can live up to 70 years. That's a long time for an animal. Okay, so I erased some of those pencil lines, and now it's already looking a little better, isn't it? Now, here's where you want to decide, how am I going to shade this thing? How am I going to show value? What do I mean by value? I've mentioned that before in other videos. Value basically just means how light and dark something is. That's all it really means. But you're going to have to really get good at values if you're going to be a good artist, especially if you're going to use pencil a lot, but, even if you're painting. Value is very important. It's more or less how light or dark something is. Notice that there's lighter areas and darker areas on our image. Why is that? That's because there's light hitting more surfaces in some areas than other areas. So the way artists do values, they usually use a 9-value system. And I printed this off to show you what I'm talking about. Maybe it'll help a little bit. 9 values. Here's your 9 values right here in little boxes, little squares. 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 9. And number 1 is always white. And 9 is going to be your darkest or black. And what the artists do is they will have 4 light values. So 1, 2, 3, 4 are the light values. And let me write that on there for you. And I'm going to skip 5 and go 6, 7, 8, 9 are the dark values. So there's 9 values in total. The first 4 are light values. The last 4 are dark values. What the heck is that middle one, Daniel? That is called what do you think? The middle value. Or sometimes it's called a half tone. But that is your middle value. And here they are down here as well, next to this little ball or sphere. And looks like the light source, wherever the light's coming from, is coming from this direction right here, doesn't it? Because look, this is lighter right here. So that's going to be value 1 and 2, mostly right in here. And then notice how the sphere curves and gets further away. The light's coming this way. As it gets further away from that light, what does it do? it gets slowly, gradually darker and darker and darker till it's very dark. It's way in the back where there's no light hitting it, or at least very little bit of light. And then the shadow that's back underneath and behind the sphere is going to be the 8, 9 value as well, because that's going to be probably the darkest area. Okay? So even the ground it's sitting on is affected by the light. It's darker here further away from the light. Behind the sphere, it's lighter back up here where the light is hitting it. So, and that goes for all shapes. Remember, since my very first video, we talked about using basic shapes. Cylinders or tubes, balls or spheres, cones or triangles, squares, and other shapes as well. But his legs, his trunk, think of them as cylinders. Where's that light coming from in this picture? It looks like it's kind of coming from his left a little bit, slightly in the left and towards the front. I would say the light is kind of coming this direction right here. So it's hitting here the most and along here. So where is it the darkest? Right in there, up under here and over here, it looks like. So that's going to be my 8 and 9 values. This is gonna be a lot of my 7 and 8s, and then it's gonna be 6 and 5s over here and 4s. There's not a whole lot of 1s. Maybe the tusk is a 1. This is a 1 and a 2. Most of that, there's a little bit of 1 in here, but most of it is a 2, 3, and a 4, I would say. You could even say there's some, then it gets to be a 5 here, then a 6, 7, and 8 there along the edges. See what I mean? So I'm going to use a softer lead, because the softer the lead, the darker it is. So I'm going to grab a 4B pencil. I'll probably hold on to that HB pencil too. And maybe a 3B and a 3B pencil. So the 3B and the 4B is what I'm going to use a lot. I like to hold them in my hand like this. If I know I'm going to be switching back and forth and using them a lot, I'll hold them in my left hand because I'll draw with my right hand. Don't forget, you want your paper for the heel, the back side of your wrist, your hand to rest on, because this gets real smudgy. So I'm going to start off this 4B because it's really dark along the edge of that ear. And I'm pressing down kind of hard to get that darkness that I want. Look, it's really dark in here too. So let's get that darkness in there. I'm pressing down kind of hard. All right. I mentioned that the elephants, they travel in groups called herds, and those herds can range anywhere from 8 elephants to 100. And the head of the herd is typically is the oldest elephant, and it's a female, and it would be called the matriarch of the herd. There's some more elephant facts for you. And let's see. Let's get some of those. See these lines here? All those wrinkle lines are kind of dark. They're like a 6 or a 7. So I'm going to put those in there. We already kind of started these. These are like a 6, 7. When I say those numbers, I'm talking about these numbers here. So you can have something like this in front of you. You can make your own. You can print one off the internet. You can get it in art books. And so I'm going to be making a lot of these 4 through 7s is what I'm doing. And you'll get the different ones depending, like here's a 4. Here's a 5, here's a 6, here's a 7, here's an 8. See, I just made it myself right there. There's a 4, there's a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's just a slight difference between each one. A little more pressure with the pencil, just a little more pressure, a little more consistency, a little darker to get the higher number. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm probably not going to do too many of those 2s or 3s. So, oops, I need that on there. If you keep going back across there, you're going to smudge it all up. That brings me to another thing. The way I did my drawing last night, I started from the left, and I like way over here to the left, and I worked on that, I worked on that, I worked on here, left still, and I slowly worked towards right. I didn't work here and then over here and then back over here, then up here, then over here. It's tempting to do that, but you're going to cause more smudges if you do that. And this stuff, I'll show you. Here I'm drawing, I'm coloring. Now, look, this is what I'm talking about. See, that's what happens with the soft lead pencil. It smudges. I got it all over my hand too. So that's why you don't go back and forth, back and forth. You pick one side you're going to work on. Since I'm right-handed, it's easy for me to work starting from the left and move to the right. If you're a left-handed person, I don't know. It might be easier for you to start over here and work that way. Go this direction. So that's up to you, of course. But if you go back and forth, as tempting as that is, you're going to be at risk for smudging. Of course, using this will help prevent that as well. I just dropped my eraser, but that's okay. I got other ones around here somewhere. All right, so I started to the left. And I think I'm going to lay down kind of a 5 or 6 all the way across. That seems to be, if you look at the 5 and the 6 values, tones, whatever you want to call it, most of this is like 5 and 6. So I'm going to lay me down a good spread of 5 and 6. Here, I'm going to put this here so hopefully you can see all 3. I don't know how well you can see that. There we go. Kind of a light to medium touch. I'm not pressing real hard. I'm using little short strokes like this. I'm not going like that all the way back. I think I'll get the kind of texture and pattern that I want more if I do it this way. Now that I got it's kind of medium, I can go back and easily go on top of that and press just a little bit harder to make some of those areas a little darker. Closer to the edge of that ear, it was darker, so I'm going to go back and press a little harder, shorter strokes. I'm not using a very fine point of the pencil. I'm just kind of off the point a little bit, not 100% on the side of the pencil, but close to it. Now I'm going to lighten up a little bit, little less pressure, because I'm kind of blending. I'm making it gradually go from dark to a little lighter. Turn your paper if you need to. I will be doing that. All right. Can you see that? How it's darker on the edge of his ear, and it's gradually gets a little lighter till I get to around a number 5 or 6. Here it's like an 8 or a 9, and it's mostly a 7, and then some 6, and then it's more of a 5 right here. Once again, this I'm talking about. It was more like an 8 on the edge of the ear, and then it was a lot of 7 and 6, and then gradually went into a 5. Now, if you obviously put a hand on that, that's going to get all smudgy like that. So, since I started on the left and I'm right-handed, I won't have to worry about my hand being on top of that unless I keep going back and forth. So, and if I use this. All right, so now, if let's say you didn't want to use pencils, maybe I wanted to do this in a pen. And these technical pens come in a variety of sizes. It's the diameter of the pen tip. The 0.8 is going to be thicker and heavier, and this 0.05 will be a lot smaller. 3 is kind of going to be in the middle. if I was to use this and technical pins, which I like to draw pins a lot, and if I was, this was my subject matter, and he's so wrinkly, with all those little lines, you know, a good method would be, let me draw a little square here. A good method would be to do what they call cross-hatching. Cross-hatching are just basically lines that cross each other perpendicularly. So shading it would be, and the tighter and closer those lines are together, and the more lines there are, it's going to be darker. And as those lines are further apart from each other, the lighter it's going to be. But if the lines are, there's more of them and they're closer to each other as they cross each other, it's going to be darker. So that's another way you could have shaded this. So for example, we know it's really dark right here. It's like a 9 on that value scale, right? Right in there, it's really dark. It's mostly dark, that whole area, but it gets a little lighter in the middle. So I would leave a little more space between my lines. I might make this darker. It was just a little bit lighter in the center, but it's still pretty dark. Now I'm going to do that cross-hatching part. All my lines were going the same direction until now. All right, let me see how it's a number 9 on the value scale here at the top and the bottom. It's a little, it's more like an 8 in the middle, because a little bit of light is hitting there. And so I made my little cross lines a little further apart. That's all I had to do to make it a little lighter. Let's do that on this outer. We'll do the same thing. See how it's darker kind of around the knee area in the middle of that leg, and it gets lighter as you extend out, especially towards the bottom. Let's do that with the pin. You can shade it and get your values a lot quicker with these pins than you can with the pencil, but it won't be nice and smooth either. So, but with an elephant, with all those wrinkles, his skin's not exactly smooth, so this might be a better way to go. You might want to try it. See how I'm turning the paper? It's going to be easier for me. I'm making the cross lines. I'm going to slowly, gradually make them wider apart. Now, when you use technical pins, it doesn't always have to be a cross hatch. Okay, see how I did that? You could just try to, let's do this other leg, but not cross hatch, but we're still using the pins. Okay, first of all, it's going to be dark up here, like a 9 value. And then it's slowly, it's going to be a little darker along the edge. And I'm going to use more than one size pin, because it will be lighter as I use a smaller size. Some of these lines might cross each other like the crosshatch, but most of them won't. All right, so that light is kind of hitting towards the center of the leg. That's why it's a little lighter, right down the middle, the center of that leg. And it's a cylinder, it's a tube like this. So the light is hitting here. So that's why you have it a little lighter here. And then as it curves away from the light can't hit back here as well. So it's going to be darker here and darker here. As we get to the front, it's going to slowly, gradually get a little lighter. So that's what you need to picture in your mind when you're shading these elephant legs. Is that's basically just a big tube cylinder, and the light is hitting it right in the front middle. So I will have fewer lines and they will be wider apart, which will create that light effect that I want. Now I'm going to use even a smaller pen so my lines are even more faint. All right, see how it's getting darker and lighter? So that's another way you could go too. So I worked on this drawing last night for about I'm dropping everything. Oh my God, pencil, come back. Okay, I'm back. I worked on this for about 2 hours last night. I didn't finish it, but I got it mostly done, and we'll finish it right here. So here is what I did for you last night. What do you think? Here it was our reference photo. There we go. I did it the same way that I showed you right here, using basic shapes and lines, blocking in things. I used the pencil with my different values. And now I gotta finish this ear over here. So let's finish it. We'll put this one out of the way. I don't need my pens right now. I just need some pencils. And once again, I'm going to use this to protect my drawing. But see how I work from left to right? That's why I just have this part left. That's my last part on the right side to finish. So I didn't have to keep going back and forth over my drawing, risking smudging it. Once again, look at that. This here is a little darker than this one, so the light's coming a little more from his right. It's the right center, and it's not hitting this side as much. There's a couple wrinkles that are curved up and outward away from the rest of the part of the ear, which is capturing some light. But it looks like for the most part, it's like a number value 7 for the most part. It's a 6 and a 7 with some 8 in there too. So that's my 3B pencil right here. Where is that's my HB pencil. What happened to my 6B? Oh no. Oh well. I'll make do. I just will have to press a little bit harder with my 3B. I'm not sure where my 6B went. I dropped it, I guess. Okay, so here we go. Mostly a 7 on the value scale. I don't need a straight edging one. Let's get that out of the way. And by the way, I'm using 100-pound paper this time. It's a little better quality. That cartoony one, this was just done on a simple 60-pound paper. See how flimsy it is? Now look at this one. It's like almost like a cardstock paper. So it's a heavier paper, a little better quality. I wanted a nice drawing for you guys, since it's not just a simple little cartoon. I wish I knew where that 6B went. Well, this or 4B here. We'll use this 4B will be good. Because I want it. It's really dark on that ear right alongside his face, not far from the eye. And then it turns into more of that 7 grayscale value. That's what most of that ear is going to be. So I need to get as close to this gray right here. Somewhere 6 and 7s is what I'm going to be doing the most. Think of that grayscale. Those numbers are different letters, just like letters of the alphabet. And in order to form a word, you put the letters together. And in order to form our completed picture, we got to put these letters of the value scale together to create a nice word. This, if you get the gray scale down, the value scale down, when you're doing your artwork will look more realistic. It will have more life to it. It'll be more pleasing to the eye. It will show shape and depth and light, and it'll just be more pleasing all the way around. Okay, I'm going to turn that paper now. When I turn my paper I'm drawing on, what I like to do is turn my reference picture the same direction. So when I'm looking back and forth, because you guys can't see this because you can't see my head and my face, but my eyeballs are going back and forth from my reference picture to my artwork. I'm constantly going back and forth and back and forth. Okay. Another elephant fact. Elephants drink between 30 and 50 gallons of water a day. Oh my goodness. If I drink that much water every day, I'd be in the bathroom the whole day long. And you may not believe this because they're so huge. They're such majestic creatures, but they're so big that they are actually excellent swimmers. They love to spend time in the water. Helps keep them cool, for one thing. And they are also very good at completely submerging under the water. And you can use that long trunk of theirs almost like your scuba mask with the little, what do you call it? The periscope or whatever it's called. So you can breathe when you're underwater. It sticks out of the water. They can use that the same way. And they're excellent swimmers. But one thing that they cannot do, I don't care what somebody says, elephants cannot jump up on something. They can't do it. They don't really need to do it. They're so big and tall. Why would they need to jump? Most animals in the wild jump to either get away from something that's trying to get them or to get to some kind of food source maybe. An elephant doesn't have any predators that they have to jump up in a tree to get away from. What animal's going to pick on them other than what I said earlier, humans, unfortunately? We're the biggest threat to an elephant as a human. So, and they don't have to jump up to get to their food source either because they're so tall. If they want to eat something off of the tree, they can reach it. They don't have to jump up to it. So elephants cannot jump, but they are excellent swimmers. Okay. Now let me put in some of those lines. Now, once again, this isn't photorealistic. I'm not doing every single line that's in that reference photo. I'm making up some lines that aren't there. I'm just getting an overall impression. All right, see how I did it like a number 6 value all the way across there? I'm going to make some of them a little darker, so there's some 7 value in there too, but it's mostly 6 and 7 with a little bit of 5 down the middle where the lights is hitting it some. Now, if I did want to make it even more and more realistic, what sometimes I'll do is I'll have something like a magnifying glass and get a really good look at some of those wrinkles and go back and forth, making sure I'm putting in every single one the same way it is in the reference picture. But as I said earlier, I'm not really all about the photorealism. I want it to be very realistic. I want you to be able to glance at this and glance at this and go, oh yeah, man, that looks a lot like it. But I don't want it to be exactly like it. Some artists do that, and that's okay. I'm not knocking it. It's amazing that some of these artists can do a drawing or painting. It's like you can't. Your brain doesn't know. Your brain's telling you that's a photograph, and it's not. And that's amazing. But that's just not my style. You do what you want to do, though. But if you want it that realistic, why don't you just take a photograph? Kind of, you lose the fun. I want to see people's interpretation of the elephant. I don't need to see a photograph realism. All right, I'll shut up about that. You may have a different opinion about it. All right, so that's not 100% done, but that's getting pretty close. I'd probably finish up that ear, and then I would go back and gently, wouldn't press down and make sure I'm not rubbing with this, go back and clean up and fix a few other things that I didn't like so much. But that's basically the finished thing. And, if you put a black mat on that, I normally have some black mats around here. Just a moment. Let me see if I can find one. There we go. It may not be the right size, but put that right over the top of it. I'm going to have a little bit of dust on it. But look at that. Look at how that kind of makes it just kind of like pop out, doesn't it? Get it. All right, see how it helps frame it, helps it pop out a little bit. I like that. Or you could just put it in a black frame. Don't forget to put your name on there and the year that you did it. All good artists do that. And anyway, this was video 2 of Drawing with Daniel, drawing an elephant. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a few things. The main thing I wanted to talk about was the grayscale or value scale. And we'll be doing that a lot in future drawings. And so keep that in mind. You'll do that whether you use pencil, pen, paint, Crayolas, it doesn't matter. You'll get a lot of that by just pressing harder. I'm pressing harder here, a little less hard, a little less hard, real light, real gentle. Ooh, I'm barely pressing at all to get that lighter. Or you can go in the opposite direction. Light touch, little more pressure, little more pressure. Now I'm pressing a little harder. Now I'm really pressing hard. I'm pressing as hard as I can. I'm using 6B, 6B, 4B, 4B, 3B, 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 2B, 2B, HB, 2H pencil, 4H pencil, 6H pencil. So see what I'm talking about when I'm doing that. The lighter, harder leads here, the darker, softer leads over here. More pressure here, less pressure over there. That will show you value and where the light's hitting your source the most. Remember, my light source was hitting over here the most and a little bit in the center. Not so much over here, not so much back in there where there's shadows. And that's kind of what I did with my drawing. It's not perfect, it's not 100% done. I'll probably finish this a little later today. And maybe I'll show the finished product to you in another video. All right, I hope you had fun. Keep practicing. Don't get discouraged. Your drawing doesn't have to look exactly like mine. As long as you're having fun, that's all that counts. Do lots of drawings while you're stuck at home. Give them to mom and dad, grandma and grandpa. Have lots of fun. Experiment. Look at lots of different pictures. Get yourself different resources like I did. And learn a little bit about elephants. Hopefully I taught you a few things about elephants today that maybe you didn't already know. So learn when you're drawing a subject matter, learn about the subject matter, whether it's a bird, an elephant, or whatever. I think our next drawing tutorial video will be on how to draw a rabbit, a bunny rabbit. And we did that because that's Easter is just around the corner, so a rabbit would be a fitting subject matter to draw. So have fun, keep practicing, and thanks for joining me. Have a great day. Bye.